And welcome to a streaming Saturday. I almost said Sunday. I had to think about that a second. I'm like looking at the title across there. Yes, it is Saturday, and I've been playing in my lab a lot. Actually, I don't know what's the difference between lab and production sometimes when it's like I call it my lab, but a lot of my video stuff is technically my business and production. So yes. And sure, I'll run beta on my video production stuff because why not? And we're gonna play around on some stuff. I figure I'm gonna play with it anyways. Why not do it live and people can watch what I'm doing? So I'll be showing that in a moment. Not sure if you're here for the video, but I have a question. Is there a 2.5-inch SSD brand you'd recommend for boot drives for TrueNAS? Looking for small, no 1+ TB, 256 gig max. You know, I've not for production systems. Well, my lab systems, which I know are somewhat production systems, not stuff we sell to customers. I'll say, I've always used whatever I had. I literally, and we'll just share the screen here. So on that topic, I've not had any problems with the some of the different brands of like SanDisk or what's the other one? I know I just happen to have some SanDisk laying around. So if we go here and we look at the disks that are in this system right now, I literally found a pair of so let's filter for the boot pool. There we go. This one's a Samsung. So one's a Samsung. Is the other one and a SanDisk. I paired them together. So I made a boot pool out of these two drives. There's one drive is slightly bigger than the other, so there's some leftover space when it mirrored them. But whatever, it's a boot pool, so it's really not relevant to me in terms of that. But yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I have not had problems with Samsungs. I've not had problems with the SanDisk ones, especially these smaller drives like this. So if you have them laying around, awesome. I do. They're pulled out of systems. I don't even know. They probably have quite a few hours on them, but they're in a mirror. So we just haven't thrown them out. So I have a handful of these floating around the office. And so I put 2 of them in here. Let's actually go and see how many. Tell me how many hours are on there. Hold on. Oh, I don't like that it drops me like this. Can I just type sudo and does it work? Oh, once we put the password's really long. Can I put the password in? I never do it this way. Can I control V? And won't let me paste. All right. Well, I'll SSH in. And I'm curious now how many hours are on that particular drive. So if we SSH in, -a/ what drive was that? Gotta go back over to system. Whoops, actually I can go here, storage and disks, filter for the boot pool. And we'll pull that back up. I'm just gonna pull, that's a feature they could add. See, if I run the smart test results, they're not in here. I think it'll give me, well, we can run a smart test, but I don't think it will give me what I'm looking for in here. From the command line, I can just do a smart control -a and let's do a manual. I see a short test. Start. Let's see if this fills in the data I'm looking for. I just want the answer. How many hours are on this drive? That's like a handy thing to know. Does it have that? 874 hours. So there's not a lot of hours on this particular drive. So, yeah, I mean, if any reliable drive, it doesn't take a lot. There's not a lot of read write going on the boot pools. And as long as you're backing up the config file, they're easily replaced. just back up the config file. You know, I know people have talked about this when I did my config video. They were asking like, well, hey, you know, how can I automate this? And if you look, there's ways you can set up cron jobs to automate the backing up the config. My general thing with my TrueNAS servers is I only back up the config when I make changes because that's when it's important. So I don't have any auto setup, which seems to surprise people, but maybe I think differently because I'm like, okay, I'm changing shares, I'm making modifications. All right, modifications are complete, they're validated, they work. Export, backup, save. I do this with pfSense. I do this with really anything I configure that has a backup file. Once I'm done configuring it and I've validated that the configuration is what I want, I then back up that config file, and occasionally I back it up prior to, just in case, just so I have it at the ready. And then I take that file and I put it to a structured directory I have that has each device and then has a backup file in there. And I actually have revisions going back years because of this, because they're all small, so they don't take much. So I don't really bother with the automation on it. It's more of a mental thing that I have. Because if you set up the automation, are you going to validate that the automation is always working? Because now you start depending on a hacky automation because it's not officially part of TrueNAS to be able to do this. And does doing that actually, you know, do you follow through? Do you make sure your automation is working and validate that the backups are being done and test, restore, etc.? When I know if I go into TrueNAS and I just go and download something out of there, so you go to System, General, and you can just go download file, save. There we go. Now we've downloaded it. I've got all the configuration backed up. So, let's see. Any experience with Ceph on XCP-ng? I do not at the moment. It supports it though. Ceph is a supported option in XCP-ng. There's some discussion in the XCP-ng forums on this, but I haven't done any of it firsthand. We were looking at TrueNAS to run as a database storage server for XCP-ng VMs. Is there a way to get close to HA with TrueNAS? I know HA is only available IX hardware. Minimum downtime is okay. How fast do you want to synchronize the data is what it comes down to. There's two ways to do this in TrueNAS. One of them is through ZFS replication. So ZFS replication would allow you to replicate the data. I think the fastest you can set it is 1 minute. So you can set 1 minute. Yeah, you can set 1 minute replications. There's option A. Option B, and I don't know that this is great for databases because of the way they work. It might work. I don't know. Maybe not. Is SyncThing is another option. That's a way to do it. You could have SyncThing pointed at two different places and have them synchronizing together. I don't know if that would do the database transactions properly. Database transactions are kind of specific, and it's best if you use tools built into the database. For example, some database can have where there's a master database and then there's subsequent replicated versions of it that you can do this with like MySQL. You can do this with, I believe you can do this with some of the Microsoft ones. I think they have a special thing they use for it, but you can just have the database in more than one place. So that's probably a more logical option to do that. I noticed you posted TrueNAS had better NFS performance. How this was achieved? I didn't read through every detail, but it's a updated kernel, and they've been doing a lot of tuning and lots of optimization of code. I didn't look to see exactly how they made the code better. I have my faith in them that they have been making the code better. So I don't really know. I know it's in their document. So not documentation. It's on GitHub. Like they've updated what version of ZFS they're using. There's a lot of little things that, well, actually, no. If you're on 2310, you're using the same version of ZFS as 24. So it's actually probably not specifically ZFS, but it's open source. You can go through all the code changes that they made. A couple cheap Kingston 120s. Yeah, those probably work fine too. Yep, TrueNAS is dumping Gluster. That's correct. There is enough that you probably don't want to use USB for the boot pool. That is correct. I had a USB boot one running all the way until recently, and it didn't die. I just finally said I should probably replace that. The USB drive was running for 4 years, still working. One question to the chat mostly: has any of you tried Nutanix? I will leave my comment here. I know people ask about Nutanix, and feel free, of course, people in chat to chime in on this. One of my problems I have with Nutanix is you're trading one proprietary company for another proprietary company. You didn't move the bar. Matter of fact, specifically, publicly traded private company that could also be easily bought by Broadcom, because Broadcom's got enough cash to acquire Nutanix. Whether or not they will today depends on if they think too much of their customer base goes to Nutanix. They might. So open source all the way. So that's one of the reasons I'm not a Nutanix fan. When running TrueNAS at home, primarily NAS with a few small containers, you'd recommend 4, 5, or 6 drives, thinking Z2. This is all about your risk tolerance. Let's actually walk through real quick in a moment here. I'm going to show you how I'm setting up one of my systems at home. Well, I can show you how one of my other systems is set up that runs all my videos. I have, and for reasons it'll maybe be clear or not clear at all, depending on who you're asking. I don't mind running because I have extra copies of all my data here at my studio and also 2 more copies offsite. So I like to live dangerously. And if you notice, let me zoom in here. This is RAID Z1, and I'm fine with that. And here's more. Here's an 8 wide RAID Z1. I'm fine with RAID Z1 because my risk tolerance, I have all the data going here, and I have all the data replicating to another system here. And then from there, I have all the data replicating again to an offsite system. That also replicates 2 more times. So there's 2 offsite copies. There's 2 onsite copies of the data. So I don't mind Z1. So it comes down to what your risk tolerance is. HA, ProLiant Microserver, Proxmox, or XCP-ng. I'm on team XCP-ng for sure. Hello, Dakota. Hopefully life is going good over there on your side of the world. What is the model HBA card in EHL15 from 45 drives? It'd be interesting to know if they're using more modern HBA cards, which have less bottlenecks for throughput. I don't remember what it is. It's been mentioned in all the other people who reviewed it. I believe said that in their videos. It's the HBA card is, if I'm not mistaken, it's built into the board. It's whatever Supermicro has built in, but I don't remember the name of the chip that's on there. Maybe later I'll SSH into it when I finish my current projects and look at it. But you can also, I think the 45 drives has it in the spec on their site. Probably just Google that. So the Homelab 15. Does it say? I know it's a Supermicro board. Fully assembled. Does it say what? Yeah, right here. So here's your board. So Supermicro. Come on. Highlight, copy, search. So whatever. It's a Supermicro X11 SPH N-CTF. Does it say what controller that is? Oh, I hate this. It's a Broadcom. Because Broadcom. So it's got a Broadcom controller. Everyone loves Broadcom, I know. Anyways. Planning upgrade from core to scale. Can I expect replication tasks and cloud backups or Backblaze migrate? They should be fine. If you're specing a switch with fabric topology, would you recommend as a core stack switch for a massive environment? 5,000 connected device needs to be stacking redundant PDU. We have a 100 gig switch with a similar demand on it. We're doing Arista, so I think Arista is not bad for that. You said it right, Tom. Once Tom gets the Nutanix once Nutanix gets the market share, they will sell to Broadcom. So, this is one of those things. Someone got mad at me for tried to tell me I was wrong, and I'm like, this is an article from a while ago. Nutanix for sale. They have been trying to sell the company, and the reason why, and obviously, I don't know what their status is today, but one of the things you got to remember, the people who invested in Nutanix have been investing money into a company that loses money because Nutanix isn't profitable until now. Nutanix makes its first profit ever, and that was in 2024, probably related to, speculation from with the Broadcom buying. So, I mean, you got a big publicly traded company that has a bunch of debt that they owe to investors. Probably they're trying to sell and have been trying to sell, and they just now made a profit. It's a weird world. The tech world can be a little strange. I'll give it that, but I don't see a play that makes me like Nutanix. I'll throw that out there. Oh, you're right. The second one is RAID Z2. Yeah, the first one's RAID Z1. The second one is RAID Z2. You're right. Given the specs of the HL15 and half the backplane being SATA, I bet half is run from onboard SATA from the chipset plus HBA for the rest. No, it's all plugged into the HBA. Somewhere, do I have a photo of the HL15? Maybe. I don't know. Other people do have photos of it, but it's all... There is a photo I have where I took it apart. I haven't done the review because I've been busy doing a few other projects, but I did take the HL15 all apart. I just got to find that photo. Oh, there we go. So there's the HL15 partially taken apart. So you can see the connector down here. That's the backplane plug-in. So for those that seem to be very curious about that. How does Zen do integrity checking for backups? Not the restore method. For Proxmox backup server, after a backup, the data is scanned and hashed as burned by Zen when a restore failed. I mean, it validates, it does a checksum when it does the backup. So it does checksum the backups to validate that the data matches that it's on there. Obviously, doing your restore is the way to absolutely validate things, but it does validate the backup as it's being done. First, Homelab recommendation for TrueNAS system is support iSCSI NAS functions looking to host VMs on another system. And for that NAS to be expandable later on as my system grows, TrueNAS Mini R. I really like the TrueNAS Mini R, but one thing I will say about it, it's not that fast. It's the one downside. It is not a high, it'll do 10 gig SMB. Got that covered. No problem there. But if you want it to perform for NFS and iSCSI, it's just not that fast for those things. That's the one downside of the TrueNAS Mini R. It's not high performance. It doesn't have a super fast chip in it. I thought about, because people have complained, and I get it. If you look at the chip that's in, as a matter of fact, let's go back over to here. This is my, I have more than one of them. So which one's this? We'll log into this one here. Figure out which one I'm in. There we go. These have that Intel Atom. This is another, the TrueNAS Mini 3.0 and the TrueNAS Mini R both share the same processor. It's an Intel Atom. and they're just not super fast. So if we search, like, I don't know, Passmark, there's the Passmark on that processor. It's not, it's fine for an NAS, but it's not incredible. Therefore, you're not going to get amazing iSCSI or NFS performance out of it. It'll work. It just won't work as fast as something that's a little bit more performant. Is it good if I add a bunch of HDs as a VM guest and then set up a RAID for those drives in the OS to have a large drive? What is the pros cons of setup? Like, you want to pass the drives directly into the guest? I mean, you can. The reason I don't do a lot of that is frequently customers have more than one host, and you want to be able to move your virtual machines between hosts. If you tie the guest OS to something directly in that host, you don't have that as an option because it becomes married to that host. So it's kind of a preference I have, but yeah. XCP-ng via Zen what sort of complications should I look out for when I want to add a GPU for video encoding? Recently acquired a NVIDIA 4. I did my pass-through video, but the challenge you run into isn't necessarily the pass-through. The problem you may run into is, I'm not an expert on this. Jeff from Craft Computing has done more videos on this topic than I have. He is my go-to person. I will reach out to Jeff at Craft Computing or even watch one of his videos. There are weird rules around the way NVIDIA licenses or does something with drivers. I don't know the details. I know there's bugs that are more related to NVIDIA drivers than it is anything else, where when you try to do the encoding, it has some problem because of NVIDIA being weird about things. They're selling an all-flash unit with scale. Do you know how they tune it to make sure IOPS are good? It's more about how you set up the VDEVs is probably the most important thing to getting the IOPS good. Second thing is putting really fast drives in there that have good, enterprise like SAS drives with good queue depth. They use NVDIMM on some of them as well to get better performance with the slog. So there's not any special changes they make to TrueNAS itself. It's all in the setup of the systems. Deduplication is a disaster waiting to happen if you're not careful. Deduplication definitely can cause some major performance problems. There's a bunch of new code coming down the pipeline to make deduplication better, but deduplication can definitely cause you a lot of headaches. I've seen people we have people reach out to us. They want us to fix their deduplication problem. And I'm like, there's no fixing the problem. It doesn't scale very well with performance. The more data you have, the more data it has to compare against for deduplication. And by the way, deduplication is only effective if you have data that can be deduplicated, and not all data can be deduplicated. That is where the problem is. So if you don't have data that can be deduplicated, then there's no point even turning it on. All right, let's go over here. I'm closing all these tabs. I need to make a new storage pool here. What is this storage pool? Okay, I got some test data because I was testing these drives, but I got to rebuild it. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. Oh, you want to put a bunch of VHDs together and set up a RAID? The problem is the way RAID works is it's going to start talking to each of the drives, and then it's going to put pressure on the system to manage all those small writes between the drives. So as long as you have enough compute to be able to do it, it should work. But you just got to remember the CPU. This is actually always the big hang up. Processors you can pass through relatively easy, so to speak. Hypervisors don't really kill processor speed that much, but virtualizing a hard drive definitely has a cost, so to speak, of CPU cost and performance cost. So sometimes when you do that, you can watch the system have the hypervisor itself start having a ton of CPU time trying to sort out the RAID writes, and it actually ends up being slower. I don't know if it's slower or not. It's going to depend on your system and your situation. It's a fun experiment. It's not something I would ever run in production. I haven't really had a use case for building RAID arrays with a bunch of VDIs. But you can. I've done it. I should say I've done it for testing purposes, like to validate something I wanted to test. But I've not done it as a. It's more of a thought experiment than an actual something I would ever want to do in like production. But let's kill this and disconnect this pool. We're gonna destroy the pool. We called this one test. So we'll go ahead and destroy the data on this pool. We're doing it live. I'm glad I called it test, or I would have had to think a little harder, just, running through things. All right, time to build a new pool. I know I'm going to call this one Dozers. That's the name of this particular system. We're not doing encryption. Now, this is a feature that you won't necessarily see in TrueNAS unless you have one of their hardware. You can actually limit the pool to the enclosure. If you have multiple enclosures attached, you can choose which one. I thought this was kind of neat. It really doesn't matter. There's only a single enclosure on this one because this is a TrueNAS Mini, but I thought it's cool that they have this enclosure option. Data layout. We're just going to go Z1. We just had that discussion, but I think Z1 should work. Should give me enough. We're going to go a width of 5. Ooh, gives me a raw capacity of 50 terabytes. I guess I could go RAID Z2. Gives me 38 terabytes. A little bit of extra headroom in there. Why not? It's only data. Or do we want that? I don't know. I probably want that 10 extra terabytes. This is just going to be a backup server mostly. Or do we, I don't know. See, this is, you're watching me kind of second guess myself, right? Like I have enough storage. I only have like 15 terabytes of data. I think I need to move over to this. So it's one of those things like, yeah. It's one of those things you kind of consider, like, how long will it be down for? Does it matter? It's a backup server. We're getting a Z1. So we'll get a Z1. I get this 50 terabytes. Then we get next. I'm not worried about a log drive because it's a backup. And I'm not worried about metadata, cache. These are things that people worry about a lot. That I have some upcoming videos. This is what I've been spending my time doing, is validating a bunch of like how I can demonstrate how these log drives and cache drives have minimal sometimes value based on the circumstances. And in this particular circumstance, the workload that's going on this, the log drive and metadata drive are not going to make any difference at all. These contents will be erased. Hey, why not? Build the pool. Yeah, Wendell's video on this is great. The Intel cards are actually pretty impressive. But I would recommend watching Wendell's video on that for sure. It's Intel Video Pass-Through. He posted on Level 1 Techs within the last week or so, maybe within 2 weeks ago. It's a good video though. I really liked it. Good tutorial on VPN with UniFi Express. I'm kind of slowly diving back into some of the UniFi stuff because they've updated the firewalls so much. I don't know anyone who's done one myself, but I will be doing some in the future. It's always, the challenge is always finding the time. I have a million things to do. It's finding the time to do them all. But yay, we've got data. And let's set up some apps on this. Actually, I'm going to copy from one of my other ones. Choose the pool. Get these apps going. Now, this is not something you will necessarily have to do, but I will show you a thing I do, because the default IP ranges overlap with my office IP ranges, and it'll cause weird. I pointed this out to people that it will cause some problems if you have IPs that are in the range that it chooses under advanced settings. You'll have a problem. So we're going to fix that real quick. There we go. Whenever you do this, it actually goes and rebuilds the Kubernetes on the back end. So it warns you that it'll reset all the apps. So you should do this when you first set this up for setting up apps. All I did was move the IP to a range that doesn't overlap with my network, because you'll get a system that won't route properly because it has a Kubernetes setup that has a range that overlaps with its main IP address. I've actually helped people sort that problem out a few times, where they set up the applications and they ended up with that problem. And you're actually watching in real time, because nothing's sped up here, the slowness, I guess you could say, of that particular processor. It's not wicked fast. So this, I mean, I have no problems. I mean, I'm doing all my video editing and everything else on this system here for, all the videos I edit. They're all 4K 60 is what I shoot them at. So they're large video files. They work fine. I can even bump it up to ProRes RAW and edit right off of these. It works. It handles massive video files, but certain things you'll notice that processor that doesn't score very high, like when you're setting up the apps, it's not as snappy as my HL15 is definitely faster. Still initializing the app service. It's doing the app discovery at the very minimum. I want net data on here. Come on. Sometimes you guys wait a second. View all apps. Come on. Net data. There we go. Takes a second for it to start indexing when it first sets up before it actually finds them. Install. And after this gets installed, we'll start sending data to it. Because the goal of this particular box is to get a bunch of data sent over here for an extra set of backups. But one of the other things that I'm going to be doing a video on soon is how replication works. Matter of fact, we're going to fix replication right now because it's broken. Maybe I won't fix that right now. I'll just do the replication to the other one. But I do have an upcoming video where I break down how the replication works and then how to fix it when it breaks, because I just moved a server. So all this replication is not going to work properly. So if we go here to credentials and we choose our backup credentials, I'm going to rename this one old, because that is now the old key. Because I need to create a new key because it's got a new IP address. Because you can change this here. And now when I go over to the replication, you look at which key it's using. Oh, that's a snapshot. There we go. You see it says purple NAS old. I need to point it at the purple NAS new to make this work. So we go back over here to the credentials. And we'll build new ones here to make that work. Systems, credentials. These are the things that people don't necessarily. Whoops, I'm on the wrong one. It's this one. Credentials, backup credentials, add, purple NAS. Put the URL in. Needs the password. Copy pasta. Copy password. Put that in. We'll say generate new. Actually, before I do that, I think I need to call this purple NAS key old. There we go. Will it work or will it give me an error? Perfect. Now I can add the new one. If you're wondering why it's called purple NAS, that's because it's got a bunch of Western Digital purple drives in it. Seemed like the perfect name for it. We want to generate a new key because I changed the keys on this one already. Now it'll work. For users of VMware EUC products, call error. That seems bad. Well, I'll fix that later, I guess. Huh. Oh, I know why. Oops. All right, I got to fix some firewall rules. So I'm very implicit when things go across VPNs. I allow the things I want to allow. I do not blanket allow all the things. So, okay, that's why that's got to be fixed. For users of VMware EUC products, what do you think people should jump on now or wait till Broadcom spun it out? I don't have an answer for that one. What kind of VM resources do you all allocate for XOA service, CPU, RAM, storage? Not actually that much. It kind of depends. I mean, for the lab stuff, I can get away with stuff that's really small. For stuff that is more production environment, I mean, I do have 16 cores assigned to it, so it can run more concurrent backups. It's more cores than it needs. I've got 6 gigs. 4 is fine, but I went ahead and added 6. I have a lot of memory in this system, but yeah, you don't really need to go crazy with it. You know, it kind of comes down to test your workloads and see how well they work. See where the processor problems are on it, or if there are any. Any tips on where to look to get pfSense on how things are routed? I want to route WireGuard to IPsec and Tailscale. I've not tried that. It should work, but I know because some of them, I don't know. That's a better TrueNAS forum question, or I'm sorry, pfSense forum question, because it's not something I don't have any times I've had to set that up for businesses. They usually don't have me mixing the routing like that. Looking forward to the replication video. I managed to torpedo a backup pool by deleting the extra snaps at the source. Yeah, I'm going to cover what happens when you do that, because we have a customer who's a frequent flyer. The moment one of my technicians say, "Hey, how did this happen?" I'm like, they sent me a screenshot of, I think these are the check boxes. It didn't have the client's name in it, but I knew the client that did it. I'm like, I know a client did that. He goes, yeah, they did it again. I'm going to cover all the things that can go wrong. And that client watches my YouTube videos. That's how they found me. So I will hopefully I'll just send it to them like, hey, you know, this is how this can break and this is how you can fix that. I have a video called like ZFS datasets explained. What is the difference in UI terms? I mean, the data set appears like a folder, but a data set is a folder with extra features. It has all the extra ZFS features tied to it, and everything nested under that data set inherits all those features. Folders are just folders. They don't have any special features. What is your favorite tool for IPMI monitoring and control? Commercially, we use Auvik. So I don't know. I don't really have a need for that with the open source infrastructure that I monitor. But let's do something else real quick here. I want to kick off the replication task. Just that's actually the last thing I wanted to do, like that I was going to show people because it's something that needs to be done. And this may offer some insight. So let's go here to replication tasks. I don't need any new snapshots. I already have these tasks going right now. Matter of fact, let's go to this one, share this tab, data sets. We're going to go here, add a data set. I'm just going to call it backups. All right, we got the backup created here. Go back over to here. I don't need this test one. Get rid of that. And because these already have tasks, these are going to keep sending data to Purple. I also want data sent. For example, I want all of my video archive. We'll do that one first just because it's here. So we want to do an advanced. So TS vid archive to Dozer. And we'll walk through what it looks like to do. I'll zoom in a little bit, make this easier to read. We already have a connection called to Dozer. That's already working. SSH plus Netcat, definitely the more ideal way to do this. When I do the video, I'll explain that better. But SSH plus Netcat's essentially, it uses SSH to establish the talk between the two servers. Then it uses Netcat to stream it instead of encapsulating it over SSH. If you do this, it's a lot slower because you're limited to the encapsulation of SSH. When SSH plus Netcat, these servers are local to each other, so this works great as long as they're local to each other, or if they're reachable across a subnet, that'll work. Source is going to be the LTS video archive destination. We want to put it in that data set backup, and we're going to call this LTS video archive. Simple enough. We need to attach it to a task. So this task is called video archive. Perfect. That's the only one we need to do. Snapshot retention policy. Make sure this is checked. Same as source is my preference. You can do your own custom if you want, but same as source. That's an important one. So whatever retention policy was building your snapshots also gets pushed over there. I have seen people kind of forget about this when they do advanced replication, and what you'll end up with is a problem where it will just keep, as they get deleted off the source, they're not getting deleted off the destination, and you can end up with quite the headache situation. Set to either start replication task immediately after the linked periodic snapshot completes, or continue to create a separate schedule replication. I'm fine with just leaving it linked to this one here. So this allows you to have one snapshot, but two replication tasks that send your data in two places. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. Now, one thing you'll note is, depending on speed of the machine, that isn't showing up. If we click off of it, it will show up eventually. It'll slowly refresh the screen, or you can go backwards and go back to the tasks and they'll be there. And we'll kick this replication task off. And we'll say, run now. Cross our fingers that this works. See how fast it sends data over by going here. Is it sending? Yes, it is. Open up net data because we like pretty graphs. Yay, data. What are we getting about? 5, not bad. 4.5, 4.7. That's not unreasonable for spinning drives, sending data to other spinning drives. Um, what do you use to document and have set up in your home lab and how you set things up? A spreadsheet. It's simple. I I just like putting things in spreadsheets. I keep saying I'm going to set up Netbox. I just haven't. Netbox is nice, but yeah. Been watching some old talks by Brian Cantrell and Development ZFS. Really appreciation for the engineering that's on microsystems. Oh yeah, there's man, I found this one video. It was from one of the um conferences. Wow, it was just how much engineering goes into how they, do the snapshots, how they condense them back down. It's like snapshots are so simple and easy to use because so much engineering went on the back end to make that magic happen, which I think is cool. I'll give it a look. YouTube doesn't allow great formatting. I had a child data set that had data, but the UI didn't show it, and it seems ZFS mount itself was wrong. Huh. I have no plans right now to do this. I can't think of a use case where I would want to use a demanding environment of or a more complicated config, not demanding really. It's really just more complicated configs where I would end up using OSPF with UniFi. Generally speaking, I don't know. I don't have that on my roadmap. I have a lot of other things I'm going to do before I get to that video, I should say. I I like that UniFi is trying to get some more professional stuff inside there, but yeah, I still, if I have a more demanding environment, I'm more likely to use a PF Sense than a UniFi for something like that. I've had child data sets not show in the scale UI. If those data sets are created by you can't create a data set by Windows. That's you're not understanding how that works. The way data sets are data sets, folders under data sets are not data sets. So if I go and create a folder somewhere underneath a data set, that's not a data set. Data sets are different. Does XCP-ng support USB NIC? I have no idea, and I wouldn't recommend it. SD-WAN is a marketing term. So which type of SD-WAN marketing term are we talking about? SD-WAN means a lot of things. That's why I actually did a video on SD-WAN explaining all the different things it means to different companies in different scenarios. So I guess it kind of depends which SD-WAN are we talking about. We do use some Meraki. Are we using some of the Meraki SD-WAN features? I think so. I probably have a few clients on it. Based on your statement, the C3758 Intel CPU might lead to slower performance for iSCSI on the system. What CPU would you recommend as a minimum requirement for achieving stable speeds? I would say you can achieve stable speeds with the C3758. I don't know what stable speeds means. Can you achieve 2-3 gigs? Sure, maybe. Can you achieve 10 gigs over iSCSI? Probably not. So that's what it comes down to. It's actually one of those things. It's really hard to calculate those things because it also will it give good speeds if you're using a larger block and streaming the data versus will it give good speeds if you're using a database application that's doing 4K chunks. Now you've gave it a different task. This is actually even when I ran those benchmarks and I tweeted them the other day. Let me pull this up real quick. Where is there they are. I was talking about the performance differences here. You got to remember, we got a 15% performance boost on random write at 128K. But if we go down here to the sequential write at 1 meg, it was only 11% boost. And when we did the sequential read, we only got a 2%, 2.9% boost on the new version. every workload has a different profile for where it will or not. Matter of fact, if you go look at one of my older videos where I was comparing core and scale, you'll pull your hair out because you're going, wait a minute, this application is faster on core, but this application will be faster on scale. And I'm like, yes, it's core had an edge when you were using a very specific workload, but that same workload won't perform as well on scale. But what if you have a mixed workload? Now, which one do you choose? This is one of the reasons that there's so much storage consulting we do, because it's not an easy task. You really have to narrow down the workload, and then you got to split the difference if they have multiple workloads going for the same system. So what's the best answer? Well, it depends. And I know no one likes it depends, but it kind of depends on your workload. And you may find, because I have an iSCSI on this system, this C3758 or the TrueNAS Mini R, that's the iSCSI for my Windows Steam library, and it's actually quite fast. So if your goal was to connect it to a Windows system and use it for your Steam library, it turns out it's really fast. I get great performance out of it for that use case. I've whittled my VMware alternatives down to Hyper-V, Nutanix, Oracle, Linux, KVM, and XCP-ng, mainly to cover the mix of customers that we have. Some use HCI, some don't. My complaint consistently has been about OpenSense is they're slow on security. I've listed this out. If you go Lawrence.video, I can actually throw this whole thing, but it's Lawrence.video/OpenSense. And I'll throw a link in here. This is in my forums. It's open. It's an open discussion. Feel free to join in. But I point out all the times that they lag behind on security updates for OpenSense. Because some people tell me that pfSense doesn't get as many updates as OpenSense. So I investigated. And what I found was they update for the sake of updating. They have very frequent updates, but they're not always for security patches, because sometimes security patching is hard, and they rely heavily on things at BSD happening. They don't really contribute back to BSD at OpenSense. They just pull downstream. I don't think they really have as much engineering, or don't appear to have the same engineering level team that pfSense has. So I'm partial to pfSense, but I always say this in the end: use what makes you happy. If you decide OpenSense is what makes you happy, use it. I like to think of a data set more as a mount point and not a folder. Yeah, except we actually have a lot of clients, because they have different rules that they may want to apply to different folders. We may have one base share for a company directory, but we'll have several data sets. To the customer, it all looks like folders, but there's different retention policies that are set on those data sets that are nested under the company share. So yeah, that's why I did that. I did a video explaining that. So bad wording. TrueNAS made saw data set but showed 119 equal use. Looking at these paths showed my files. Same with the NFS export, but the parents size screw, not the child. Now this is actually an interesting one, because it takes a while for TrueNAS to show that. One of the things I might want to do, dump a bunch of data to TrueNAS and show how long it takes TrueNAS when you delete the data before it actually catches up with knowing that it's been deleted. So that's actually one of those fun little things that you can run into in TrueNAS. Hey, look, all the data is still oh, good. We're getting into 5 gigs now. I am well, and thank you for asking. What is the correct way to set up a data set that is set up as an SMB share and connected to a container? Have done this in the past. Anybody get the container turn on is to turn off the share. There's no good way is the problem. I don't have a good answer, because they've gotten better where you can use mixed permissions, and they're fixing some of that in version 24. I haven't tested that much because I don't ever do that. So I know they're fixing it. So I'll do some labs where I do a video on it, because they've changed the way they create shares in version 24 now. So log back into, I think it's the system. Let's just run 24. I have too many TrueNASs open. All right, yeah, this one's running 24. When you create a share or create a data set that's going to be a share, I should say. So if this was a test share and we choose it as such, like an SMB, it'll actually create the share automatically. So they've automated that. They have a multi-protocol to do this, but I'm a little fuzzier when they do this with the apps because it's a different permission set. I don't know exactly if it works properly or not. So yeah, it's been one of the challenges of, hey, how do I create a share and have it work properly? I probably should do some more videos on it. My biggest hang up of doing videos on it, I get angry comments on sections of videos I did on my older TrueNAS stuff going, hey, Tom, this doesn't work anymore. You should take this video down. It's only a section of the video that's wrong because it's right if you're using that version of TrueNAS, but you come all the way to the new version of TrueNAS, now it's wrong. Read through their documentation. Hopefully they keep it updated and have an official way to do it. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, OpenSense, they do have a lot of updates, which that only gets more confusing to me because they have updates, but if you pay for OpenSense, if you buy their business license version, they do have less updates. But OpenSense was even more behind on security updates for their business version. So, um, yeah, I'm very security first on things. So that's one of the reasons we're using it commercially for business. It's not just something protecting my lab. So yeah. I doubt I'm going to do any videos on vector packet processing. I Lack of demand is one of those things. Like, I try to do videos that help out the community. I don't know how much that would help out the community. It's novel. PF Sense has some videos on it and talks about it. But I don't know that there's not many people asking for it. Let them be angry. Jay and you fielders, I'd be lost in days really. Did you use years and years and forever ago, maybe 10 plus years ago is the last time I really looked at OpenWRT. I know the project is still going. Awesome if people are into it. But I think it's one of the other firewall projects I'd say for home users is worth looking at. Commercially, we don't use it. I don't plan on using it commercially, but I do like stuff that helps out people in the home lab. It's one of those things like I took all the business videos we did, and there's always a link you'll find, lawrence.video/biz. I split them off the channel, and we still do a lot of the business videos. So we still talk about some of that stuff. But I don't talk about all the things we do in business because I just don't think there's a lot of interest in it. Especially like I might do a video about the Arista switch when we get all that set up for the client because it's a 100 gig switch and it's cool, setting up all this 100 gig equipment. But the someone asked me, like, I don't do a lot of Meraki videos. By the way, our company, not Lawrence Systems, but the CNWR, which is the IT side of the company, CNWR is a big Meraki seller. We have a lot of UniFi out there. They came over from the Lawrence Systems side, and they did UniFi already at CNWR prior to our merger, but they also do a lot of work with Meraki. But I might do a couple Meraki videos talking about it, but I'm not going to do a bunch of Meraki deep dives either. I don't think that it'll help the home lab much. And it's really just, it would be more like an advertisement for Meraki. And I don't love Meraki at all. It works, but I don't think they're amazing. I'll actually refer back to Jeff over at Craft Computing. He did the 100 gig video already, and he has a breakdown of all the problems. There's so many layers in between you'll run into that won't go as fast as you thought they would when you're moving data. So uh, I can't describe all of them off the top of my head, but good news is Jeff from Craft Computing. I think it's his. If you type in like 100 gig, it's one of the few 100 gig videos Jeff did. I was going to use Unraid for my dedicated home lab until I got the new pricing. Did they raise the price on Unraid? I don't use Unraid, so I don't really keep up with it. Yeah, the GLI net ones are base. There's a lot of things that base on OpenWRT, but then kind of add their own sauce in there with it. Huh. I mean, I don't use Unraid, so Unraid pricing. It auto completed 2 changes. I don't know what it was. So is this more? Um, Basic plus Pro. I don't know. So is that more than it was? I don't know. Oh, okay. So they went from a one-time to an annual subscription. Got it. That's the change. Oh, that's current, but they're moving it to subscription. Okay. Hmm. Well, I mean, this is the problem. It says right here, pay once, own forever. Works in concept. Like idealistically, it seems cool until you go, well, how do we keep developing this product? And that is the challenge. You have to have a business model that supports it. Now, TrueNAS has a business model by um, selling IX Systems hardware. They fund the development of TrueNAS. That's their business model. It's not hidden. You get TrueNAS for free, and they're hoping you buy some of their hardware to support the project. pfSense works exactly the same way. Netgate hopes you buy some hardware so you will continue the support of the developers that develop pfSense. There's some fundamental problems in the market right now where people get real upset when companies want to have some type of recurring revenue, but it turns out if you don't want the project to come to a halt and go, well, that's the last version ever, then I mean, I'm not hating on them for trying to come up with it, because I don't know any other business model Unraid has except for selling the license. And if you're someone who's going, man, I've been using my Unraid with my one-time lifetime license for the last 10 years, at some point developers can only get so much of the new market. I don't think Unraid is near as popular as TrueNAS. So I don't know. I get why they're doing it, but I don't know. I don't know a better model for some of these is part of the problem. I mean, how are they supposed to continue development? It it takes a lot of money to develop products, especially because we are, as we were discussing earlier in this live stream, talking about security. How do we want to secure things and stuff like that? Well, we'd love everything to be awesome and secure, but that does take people writing code, testing code, validating code to keep things awesome and secure. Yeah, it's just low on my list to test. I have so many things I'm working on right now. One of them that I'm working on is I have in my lab a too many windows open. Where did it go? Here it is. A series of XCP-ng machines that I'll be doing demos on. So these are this is doing nested virtualization. If you didn't know, yes, this is supported. You can do nested virtualization in XCP-ng. So I nested XCP-ng and XCP-ng so I can do demos of what happens when you lose servers, or more specifically, when you lose hosts. So if we go here and pull up the lab hosts, or maybe these aren't working right now. There we go. Now they're working. So if we go to hosts, we have these 3 hosts. So I'm going to be doing a series of videos on how to fail over the hosts. What happens when the host fails? What happens when a server dies suddenly and you have to fix the servers? So that's it's basically an admin tips and tricks video to just cover a lot of those things. What's up with the network video? Just finding time to do it. That's really, insert name of any video you ask me about is finding time to do it. That's always the challenge. I'm the only one producing the videos. I'm the only one recording them and editing them. The editing doesn't take me long. It's all the setup and recording that takes all the time. 80% of my video production is the setup, demo, script, recording, putting that all together. Because I do all the work on the front end, it makes the back end. The editing only takes a few hours. So it's just a matter of finding the time to do all those things. Uh, would like to see nested vert for Windows Hyper-V running on XCP-ng. Not likely. Automate. Yeah, I just need an AI version of myself to create the videos. There we go. That we're getting closer. I've been playing with 11 Labs. It's a company that does voice systems. I've trained it on my voice. So can I just start cranking out content in my voice? Maybe there could be a future of that. Then I could just make all the videos. Like I could just write a script that I tell the AI prompted version of me to read the script and do the tutorial on everything. So I just have to create the tutorials, but then I have to do the screen recordings. So how do I get it to do the screen recording tutorial at the same time and explain what needs to be done? I think we're pretty far off from actually making that happen. Yeah. I mean, I I only do a limited ISP. The reason I sold my business, so to speak, and not really sold, merged, if you will. The reason I split my company apart to media production and then the IT side was so I could spend more time on media production. So I've been able to produce more videos, which is great, but it's not easy. And I've tried a couple times to bring people into the fold, finding someone else who knows the stuff I know and can do it on video. That's the trick. It's not, I've trained plenty of staff members who know what I know, who know how to set up TrueNAS and know how to set up virtualization, but they're not good at teaching people how to do it. So, scaling this has been really, really hard. Finding, is a lot of times if people are really good at doing this stuff, they just start their own YouTube channel and do it. So I wouldn't mind. There's at least one person I've been bugging because I think they'd be good at it to like join my channel. But they got their own channel and they're making a go of themselves. I reach out, I ask. I don't mind someone helping me out doing it. There's some things I could hire out. Eventually I will, like setting up Netbird. I mean, I set it all up. That took some time. And I wouldn't mind hiring someone that had a task of building out some of the labs and making good notes for me. But I kind of like doing it myself because it gives me a better understanding of it. And that's where I'm kind of torn on it. So there's still some things people could do to give me the information and I can validate it. So yeah, I don't know. There is an Intune lab that runs Hyper-V I want to set up. I haven't had time to do it yet. Yeah, that's the thing. Would you actually do it? Or do you feel it would lose its sense of feel? I haven't seen any AI system that doesn't have that weird uncanny valley to feeling to it. I don't know. I haven't seen any that made me go, wow, this is the answer. Yeah, teaching and being comfortable on video. Yes, it is. Because the technicians that work for us are really, really smart. They're great people. It's just not, and they teach their coworkers how to do things and stuff like that, but it's a lot different than actually putting a video together and putting everything that goes into creating a tutorial. It's not simple is the best way I can describe it. Oh, I'm not understanding your question. AI is one thing. What about me? I'm not AI. I'm a real human being. I don't understand the question, I think. But I think it's time to go watch TV now. So what we've got here? I went an hour and 10 minutes. So the fun of all this is definitely there. I definitely had a fun time playing with all this. I didn't get as much XCP-ng stuff as I was going to talk about. Yeah, I will get this video. I'm going to do a whole admin video because not everybody knows how all the stuff works in XCP-ng. There's like so many things have been added over time. I'm going to do like an admin tutorial, how to solve certain problems, how to cover when this or that happens in terms of like functions and things like that. Matter of fact, even things like this, like what is smart reboot or forced reboot? What happens with maintenance mode? What happens if you detach a host or reattach a host? How does that work? I'll have a whole video where I basically cover all those little things, like all those little tips and tricks for admins. I made a whole list too of command lines that you may want to use inside of a lab. That's a whole another one. So it'll be a dedicated tips and tricks video, essentially, is what I'll be doing. Then the other video I am going to see. Oh, someone said, Lawrence, say hi to my daughter's show. It's live. Oh, hey, hello. The one other thing I'm going to be doing is some disaster testing with TrueNAS. I'm going to pull drives out of a running system. I might do that as a live stream where I stage a bunch of stuff so I can show you in real time how TrueNAS is resilient against failures. So that's on the list too. But hey, as always, love hearing from all of you. Leave some comments, email. I've been throwing this up here. You can email vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com if you want to reach out to me directly. Join the forums. Lawrencesystems.com is also where you find whatever socials I'm connected to. So go check those out there. But I'm going to go chill out and watch some TV, man. Thanks everyone for joining. Take care.